Hello, wanted to make a quick tutorial for you to show you how, in excruciating detail, how to do the negative motion tracking tutorial or exercise that we did in class. Okay, so as you can see, I have a composition set up in After Effects and I have my two shots. So I have the chess pieces, which is the export of the still export that I did in Premiere. And then below that, I have the negative. You'll notice that I only have like 2.5 seconds of this. So I only have exactly what I want to include in my final shot within my composition. So step number one is that we need to track this. So how do we do that? We go in and we select the layer that we want to track. And in our tracker panel, you'll find it here on the side. If you don't see the tracker panel, come up here to Window and make sure that Tracker is checked. So we'll go into the Tracker panel and we want to track motion. Okay, so immediately when we click this, you'll notice that a new tab opens up. So we were on the Composition tab, but now we are inside looking at the layer only. So we're looking at this layer only in this tab. We want to track the position and the rotation of this video. So when we click rotation, notice that we get two tracking markers that appear on screen. So these by themselves are a little hard to work with, so I'm going to just grab one, and I've done some experimentation, and this seems to be one of the best places to put it, on the corner here. I'm going to make my search box a little bigger, but I'm actually going to make my tracked source fairly small, maybe about that big. I'm going to do the same over here. So I just grab the inside box and I stretch out, and it makes the search box a little bigger for me. Come down here. I'm going to place this one on this corner, and these seem to be good track markers. So remember, whenever you're tracking, that it's always a trial and error type of scenario. It took me many times to find this. This seemed to work well. So again, I have a very small search area. I'm at the end of my video here, as you can see. So I'm going to put it on the last frame. Nothing has moved, so my track markers still look good. So they're right where they need to be, I think. Then I'm going to analyze backwards. And let's see what happens. We'll be somewhat patient. And I almost got a good track that time. I'm going to reset this, and let's try it one more time. I think I know how to make it work this time. So again, I'm just going to come over here, place that X right on the corner. I'm going to make the tracking area relatively small. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit. Okay, we'll try that. Use my H tool for hand. Come over and grab my other one. Okay. Widen out my search area a little bit, and again, just take my tracking area, make it relatively small, so it's going to try to match that exact point. Alright, and let's try that one more time. And let's see what we did. Okay, it looks like the one on the left stuck into position for me. It looks like the one on the right obviously got off just a little bit. Now if this happens to you, you can go in and manually fix this, and it's not that hard, but I would encourage you to at least try to get one good track. And so the way we're going to do this is we're going to actually go in, zoom in, and a little bit more, and pick the V key, or press the V key, and I'm going to go in, I'm going to manually adjust each one of these. So I'm going to press the page up button to go frame by frame. I'm going to grab each one of these, and I'm going to make sure to grab them in order. It's very important here. Okay, and let's see, you can see it went out of frame for me, so I'm going to press H, press V again. So it does not take that long to do this. Page up, I'm going to go to the next frame. Just a couple of seconds per frame. And again, I'm zoomed in quite a bit here, so it's going off screen. I think I'm at the top of the video here. So we'll do that, and then let me go up one more time, and we're off screen at this point. So I don't need to include these last three tracking frames here. So what I can do is go in the properties of the tracker, dial in, and this is track point 2. And I can delete. Let's try these and see what happens. So delete those. Looks like I need to come back one more. Okay. I'm going to save what I have. Very important to save often. I'm going to zoom back out. Zoom in just a little bit so I can see, and what I'm going to do is just scroll through this. I'm just looking at the position of these as I go. See, that looks a little bit off to me right there. If you can see, the horizontal line here between this frame looks a bit off, so I'm just going to go in, and sometimes it's a bit hard again to grab this unless you're right on it. Okay. And I think that will work. Okay, the key thing to remember here is that in After Effects, it is a lot of trial and error a lot of times. You're going to have to just develop this skill over time, but it's a good skill to have. Okay, once I have that, my next object, or my next part of this mission is I need to come back, and I'm just going to pause right there on this. I'm going to go and go back to my composition. I need to position this still image and make it look like my negative. So to begin with, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down, and I'm going to go to my scale. I'm going to move that over a bit. I'm going to go to my anchor point. Very important you do your anchor point and not your position. We're going to try to actually do this without a pre-composition. I looked at my original example that I had, and I did it without one. So let's see if we can do that here. Okay. So that looks about right. I'm going to drop the opacity just a little bit so I can see the frame underneath. That will help me put my mask in. I'm using the mask to be able to cut out the parts of the image that I don't need. So I'll grab my rectangle tool, and I always want to make sure that I have my layer selected before I grab my rectangle tool. If you don't, the rectangle tool will draw a shape. It will not draw a mask for you. So I'm going to draw a mask roughly around this area that I need it to be. Go back to my selection tool, aka the pointer tool, and I'm going to manipulate each of these little points right here to make it match up exactly. Okay, that is halfway decent. Okay, let's go back to the opacity. Looks good. I'm going to do one more thing, and that's I'm going to go into my mask. I'm going to feather this by 10 pixels. And what that's going to do, it's going to make it look a little bit more organic. And notice, like right here on the edge, that it's not entirely crisp. It's a little blurry, some more than others, but it helps it sell the effect. Go back into my pointer tool. Let me just adjust this just a bit more. Sometimes it's hard to see your exact edge, and you'll need to click away so you can see that. So when you click away from it, the outline of the mask disappears so you can actually see what you're working with there. Okay, let's say that's okay. So what I want to do now, I need to take this tracking data that I recorded on my first layer here, the layer of the negative, and I need to apply that to this still image that we just placed on the frame that we need it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start at the very last frame, come in here, click on Motion Trackers Tracker 1, and then you'll see here Motion Source. And I'm going to select this. You're going to need to make sure that Transform is selected, and all these properties, position and rotation, are still selected. We're going to edit target just to make sure that we are applying this to the TCC photo still. That's what I've named mine. I'm going to click OK there, and then from there I'm going to click Apply. It's going to ask me which dimensions, X and Y. That looks okay to me. Great. And then you'll see that immediately everything just goes haywire. Not to worry, we're going to just manipulate this just a bit, get it back into position. All right, and now the moment of truth. Let's see if this stays put. And that looks fairly decent. I'm going to do one more thing, and that is on this frame, we need to have it go up just a little bit, and then after that it needs to go off screen. So the way we're going to do that is I'm just going to click my H key and bring this down so I can really see it and work with it. I'm going to animate my anchor point at this point. Not to be redundant. All right, so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the stopwatch here on my anchor point. Okay, so I'm going to, right here, all I'm going to do at this point is just move this anchor point up just a little bit, just to make it look like it goes off screen. All right, that is a decent track. Okay, next piece of this puzzle. We need to make this actually look like a negative. And And so to do that, we're going to use 3 effects. Where did everything go? That's not good. There we go. We're going to use 3 effects to do that. We're going to use an invert effect. So just type in invert into your effects. Make sure you place it on the negative itself. So that actually takes and inverts all the colors. From there we need to remove all of the colors. So I'm going to type in hue for hue saturation, and take that effect and apply it here. Take down my saturation 100%, and that's going to take out all the color. And then from there I need to adjust the contrast a bit. So I'm going to take my curves and place the curve effect on there and just bring down the overall lights and darks. Okay. Now you can see that that does look like a negative, but it doesn't match the surrounding. So what I need to do is actually there's a color cast that's going on with this negative in the background. I need to remove that. And so to do that, I'm going to take the hue saturation effect. And I'm going to apply that to the negative. And take that off. And now we're starting to get somewhere. Although I keep saying that, I really mean it this time. Okay, the last piece of this is, first of all, let's just play this. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I see 2 things I need to modify. I need to modify my mask just a little bit because I see a little bit of an edge right here that shouldn't be there. And the other thing I need to do, I need to add motion blur to this just to make it a bit more realistic, to make the motion of the picture coming in match. Actually, you know what? I already do have motion blur on by default. I had that on previously. So if I take and I turn that motion blur off just by clicking that, you'll see that it actually kind of looks out of place now. So just to recap, the way you turn motion blur on, you make sure that it is selected here in your layer, but you also have to make sure that this button is selected too. So you have to enable it for the actual composition and then enable it for the layer. Okay, so I guess the only thing I'm going to do here from this point is I'm going to come in and I'm going to go into my mask and I'm going to just drop this down just I had all 4 selected. I need to actually just have 1 point selected. Drop that down just a bit. Okay. And now that I look at it, I'm just actually going to take this mask feather down to 5. Let's take a look at that. I think that looks a bit better. Let's look at this one more time. Okay. I'm going to call that done. I'm going to save my results. Just in case you don't know, the way you get a shot out of After Effects, you're going to go into Composition, Add to Render Queue. It's going to add the shot to your render queue. You're going to click on the Output Module part of the render queue, and then you're going to select your format. In this case, I want it to be a QuickTime. I want to make sure that Apple ProRes 422 is selected. If that is not selected, you can click on the Format Options button and select it there. Apple ProRes is a production codec that will keep the quality very high as you bring it over into Premiere Pro. From there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify where I want it to be output to. I'm going to have a folder already set up, and I'm going to say this is my negative comp for composition or composite. And I'm just going to call this test 2 for my personal use here. Save that. From there, I'm going to hit the render button. And when you hear that sound, you know that the turkey is done. Also, your render is complete. So I'm going to save this. I'm going to minimize that. Let me go into my folder. I am diligently searching for it. And let's see here. Here it is. And I'm going to play this. And we'll take a look into what we did. Let's look at that one more time. All right, that looks good. This text right here is just a function of the video player that I'm using. It takes the name of the file and superimposes it. Okay, so with that, that part of the project is done. Go ahead and try to finish that by the next class on Wednesday if possible. And then we will continue on with this project. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and thanks for your time.